Selected quotations of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Copyright Wisemind Publications 2009. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Revelation 21:5-7. Wisemind Publications. And we know we shall win, as we are confident in the victory of good over evil. His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Wisemind Publications. By what means can man's achievements in this world be best remembered? Many people believe that this could be done by the erection of physical and material structures, others believe that their works are in themselves lasting monuments. We, for our part, think that man's contributions which live to influence the life and progress of posterity, are the most permanent monuments that can ever be erected. Laying Foundation Stone of Haile Selassie I University November 7, 1949. Knowledge paves the way to love, and love in its turn fosters understanding, and leads one along the path of great common achievements. Opens University College of Addis Ababa, UCAA. February 27, 1951. From the beginnings of recorded history, right up to the Middle Ages, and even as late as the beginnings of the industrial age in which we live, agriculture has always constituted the fundamental source of wealth for the human race. A country and people that become self-sufficient by the development of agriculture can look forward with confidence of the future. Agriculture is not only the chief among those fundamental and ancient tasks which have been essential to the survival of mankind, but also ranks first among the prerequisites to industrial and other developments. Only when a solid agricultural base has been laid for our country's commercial and industrial growth can we ensure the attainment of the ultimate goal of our development program, namely, a high standard of living for our people. Commerce and industry, being concerned in the main with production and distribution, can only develop and profit from existing resources, but cannot actually create things which did not exist before. Agriculture College Graduation January 16, 1958. Wisemind Publications. It is, therefore, your duty to exercise lifelong vigilance to ensure that the fruits of your labors are worthy of the efforts spent on your education. If you, whose minds have been matured by education and to whom the torch of knowledge has been handed, fail to make a significant contribution to the welfare of your country, your responsibility shall be great indeed. In order faithfully to discharge this heavy responsibility, you must be men who love your nation and people, men of integrity and clear conscience, combining patience and humility. Be unswerving in your loyalty to your country which has given you so much and to which so much is due. Place your faith and trust in Almighty God, for, without His assistance and guidance, man is but a weak and puny creature. Engineering College Graduation July 17, 1958. Unless the people benefit through work, our efforts and thoughts will have been in vain. They will have also violated the wish of the Almighty that by one's toil he must earn his living. Much cannot be accomplished in the pursuit of spiritual advancement, let alone that of material gains, without labor. We have established community education so that both the youth and the adult may learn. Education and the quest for knowledge stop only at the grave. Public Health Graduation, Gondar May 18, 1959. Leaders are people who raise the standards by which they judge themselves and by which they are willing to be judged. The goal chosen, the objective selected, the requirements imposed, are not merely for their followers alone. They develop with consummate energy and devotion their own skill and knowledge in order to reach the standards they themselves have set. This wholehearted acceptance of the demands imposed by ever higher standards is the basis of all human progress. A love of high quality, we must remember, is essential in a leader. University College of Addis Ababa 6th graduation July 17, 1959. As you advance in your profession, the value of thus combining ancient and modern skills will be apparent to you. July 17, 1958. We remain persuaded that in our efforts to scatter the cloud which rim the horizon of our future, success must come, if only because failure is unthinkable. Let us be true to what we believe, that our beliefs may serve and honor us. If we succeed in the task which lies before us, our names will be remembered and our deeds recalled by those who follow us. If we fail, history will puzzle at our failures and mourn what was lost. May 25, 1963. If we permit ourselves to be tempted by narrow self-interest and vain ambition, if we barter ourselves for long-term advantage, who will speak when we claim to speak for conscience, and who will that our words deserve to be headed? If we compromise when no honorable compromise is possible, our influence will be sadly diminished and our prestige woefully prejudiced and weakened. Immense are the challenges that lie ahead, they shall be conquered, and abundant are the opportunities that awaits us, they shall not be wasted. So long as the spirit of Africa prevails and stir within us, so long as we continue to think and work and act within the African context which we have created, imbued by the African atmosphere which surrounds and pervades us, we are confident that the goals we seek shall be attained. We have created the spirit, it is our child. When semantics are stripped away, there is little argument among us. We are determined to create a union of Africans. In a real sense, our continent is unmade, it still awaits creation and its creators. We are convinced that it is in our search for African unity that we shall discover the solutions to the vexing problems that confronts us. Neocolonialism today takes two forms, economic and political. We recognize that economic dominance is not only often the more difficult to eliminate, but often serves as the entering edge for political domination. What we seek to create is flexible, not non-flexible. Inflexible, a moral force to be used for world peace, for economic development, for the benefit of humanity. We cannot impose our views by force, we have only the power of moral persuasion. This is our strength, and a great strength if we will but use it. Wisemind Publications. We know that as long as there are men who believe that one race is superior to the other and that they can lead the destinies of other men by any means, there shall be no peace. Now is the time for them to prove themselves worthy of their name, freedom fighters. Now is the time for them to commit themselves to the motto of a freedom fighter. Give me liberty or give me death. There is no safer anchorage for our learning, our lives and our public actions than that provided by divine teachings coupled with the best in human understanding. In order to achieve this common goal of strength through progress, it becomes necessary for us to abandon once and for all petty prejudices and artificial barriers that tend to perpetuate a state of division and confusion between our countries. Let us therefore leave aside all misguided aims and groundless ambitions that can only lead us into wasteful and time-consuming conflicts. February 20, 1964. It is not the strength or the power or the determination of those that oppose us that will delay success in this battle, but the weakness in our unity. It is important to remember that leader does not mean domination. A leader will always be willing to take counsel from his people, but will often act on what his own mind tells him is right. July 17, 1959. Leaders have to submit themselves to a striker self-discipline and develop a more exemplary moral character than is expected of others. To be first in place, one has to be first in merit as well. To embark successfully on a career involving leadership demands a courageous and demanding spirit. Once a person has decided upon his life work and is assured that in doing the work for which he is best endowed and equipped he is filling a vital need, what he then needs is faith and integrity coupled with a courageous spirit. So that he no longer preferring himself to the fulfillment of his task, he may address himself to the problems he must solve in order to be effective. Discipline of the mind is a basic ingredient of genuine morality and therefore of spiritual strength. December 1, 1961. Wisemind Publications. Man cannot live by bread alone. Man, after all, he is composed of intellect and soul. Therefore education in general and higher education in particular must aim to provide, beyond the physical, food for the intellect and soul. September 23, 1963. The words "learn to obey that you may learn to command" must be engraved in your hearts. Unless one is faithful, no one will trust him. October 6, 1958. Any one of you who may wish to profit himself alone from the knowledge given him rather than serve others through knowledge he has gained from learning, is betraying knowledge, rendering it worthless. A man's happiness is to make his brother happy and to serve his country. Thus, it is possible to justify for knowledge its high and deserved place. For knowledge is power, if is not applied properly to create, let there be no doubt it will destroy. January 8, 1951. Each era, for those who lived in it, has doubtless been stimulating and exciting. But no one can deny that the years ahead hold prospects and challenges of a magnitude which have confronted few eras indeed. The problems to be faced are, admittedly, also imposing, but with energy, dedication, and determination, these will be overcome, and the rewards will be correspondingly enhanced and enriched. Important utterances of HIMP 139. It is important to remember that a big edifice needs a strong foundation. A work that takes 3 or 4 years cannot be completed in a few days. One who undertakes any venture is not able to accomplish it alone. Unless one is assisted by others, the effort will end up in mere wishful thinking. This would indeed be a waste of time. You must try to learn more from men of experience and apply the same in the work presently underway and that lying still ahead. It is with this objective in mind that we expanded the education system at home and sent students abroad for further training. We are not strangers to what has been accomplished in the world. We are only trying to adapt ourselves to it. It is also our duty to see to it that everything is done well, lest the future generations blame us. Praise without any evidence of deed is of no value either to the giver or to the recipient. Important utterances of HIM, p40. The tide that is sweeping Africa cannot be stayed. No force on earth is great enough to halt or reverse the trend. Its march is as relentless and inexorable as the passage of time. HIM Emperor Haile Selassie I. April 18, 1960. Wisemind Publications. One growth and development can only be attained through proper planning, diligence, and the will to work. It is when guided by the spirit that a nation can overcome its shortcomings and carry itself to greater heights. We in Ethiopia should be guided in this same spirit so that we can realize the national goals which we have set for ourselves to accomplish in the interest and for the well-being of our country. Important utterances of HIMP.338. Q. Perseverance. 2. Economic and social growth is the laborious and slow process. Development is the accumulated result of intensive long-term efforts. It is not enough that the nation desired development and economic maturity, any more than a child, in wishing, becomes a man. Time is required, and experience, and trial and error. The processes and requirements of nature cannot be ignored or is needed. The child must first crawl, then walk, before it can run. So, also, most a nation progress through the successive stages of growth before the stage is reached where rapid and ever acceleration development is possible. Important utterances of HIMP.138. 3. In this great mission we should not falter nor be half-hearted, because it is through our combined efforts that we can build a strong base and succeed in making a breakthrough at all levels of our development. It is natural if we are met with setbacks, but if we persevere and look to the future with confidence and hope, we shall succeed. We should not forget that Yah's blessings and support can be had and that outside help will be forthcoming only if we help ourselves. We therefore have to be steadfast to our national ideals and objectives and be able to mobilize our energies for their accomplishment. For in unity of purpose and cooperation there is a lot that we can do to vouchsafe our country's continued progress and prosperity. Important utterances of HIMP.338. 4. Progress demands far-sightedness, diligence, sound judgment, and unflinching dedication to hard work. Important utterances of HIMP 210. 5. To sustain oneself and to contribute his share to the well-being of his fellow man and society, man has to work with resolution and industry. One can only reap what one has sown. Important utterances of HIMP 335. 6. We remain persuaded that in our efforts to scatter the clouds which rim the horizon of our future, success must come, if only because failure is unthinkable. Patience and grim determination are required, and faith in the guidance of Almighty I, Selassie I the First. Important utterances of HIMP.362. Wisemind Publications. 1. If we permit ourselves to be tempted by narrow self-interest and vain ambition, If we barter our beliefs for short-term advantage, who will listen when we claim to speak for conscience? And who will contend that our words deserve to be heeded? We must speak out on major world issues, courageously, openly and honestly and in blunt terms of right and wrong. If we yield to blandishments or threats, if we compromise when no honorable compromise is possible, our influence will be sadly diminished and our prestige woefully prejudiced and weakened. Let us not deny our ideals or sacrifice our right to stand as the champions of the poor, the ignorant, and the oppressed everywhere. The act by which we live and the attitudes by which we act must be clear beyond question. Principles alone can endow our deeds with force and meaning. Let us be true to what we believe that our belief may serve and honor us. Important utterances of HIM. P.360-361. 2. What we seek to create is flexible, not inflexible, a moral force to be used for world peace, for economic development, for the benefit of humanity. We cannot impose our views by force. We have only the power of moral persuasion. This is our strength, and a great strength, if we will but use it. Important utterances of HIMP 378. 3. What is needed, above all, is patience which accepts delays, while striving to overcome them, and tolerance which comprehends our weaknesses, our selfish ambitions, and our 1. The elders of our community should bear in mind that they are the custodians of the customs and traditions of our society, of which the students should be mindful in addition to their modern education. Important utterances of HIM. P.190-191. 1. There is nothing as precious to man as a sound mind and a sound body. And it is essential that the physical well-being of our people merits as much attention as its spiritual welfare. Important utterances of HIM P.276. 2. Good health is not only necessary for the well-being and happiness of man but is also a fundamental prerequisite for the progress and prosperity of the nation. Just as education ensures promotion of man's knowledge in all fields of endeavor, so does proper medical care help in safeguarding and promoting his physical and mental growth. The preservation of health is a duty. Few seem conscious that there is a thing as physical morality, are sagacious words worth noting here. Important utterances of HIM P.260. Wisemind Publications. 1. The preparation of an economic plan is only half the task, and perhaps not even that. The real test comes in the implementation, and here even the best of plans can be subverted and destroyed. 2. Once an overall economic plan is adopted, the nation's budget must be tailored to the implementation of the plan. Individual development projects must be fitted into the priorities established in the plan. Haphazard and ill-coordinated economic activity must be avoided at all cost. Investment must be controlled and directed as the plan dictates. And, most important, all of this must be accomplished in a coordinated and efficient fashion. 3. The responsibility for the success of the plan does not rest upon any single ministry or department, it is a collective responsibility, shared by all development ministries concerned with economic and social development, indeed, by all departments and officials of the government, whatever their concern, as well as this Parliament itself. Important utterances of HIM P.142. Much as man has progressed in the scientific and technological fields, he has not made a parallel endeavor to enrich himself spiritually. The materialism of today is overriding the spiritual values to the extent that today we observe a lot of unrest and social upheavals which have become common phenomena the world over. Unless humanity reverts to the time-honored values which have enabled past generations to overcome with courage the adversities they encountered in their daily lives, we shall not only be failing ourselves but posterity as well. In order to advance in our respective undertakings and set ourselves on the right path, we have to learn and draw abundantly from the great spiritual heritage which our fathers and forefathers have bequeathed to us. This can give us strength and a sense of continuity which are essential for progress and development. Learning and profound knowledge nurtures noble character and impart wisdom. The family unit and educational establishments have great responsibilities in these endeavors, for they are the basis of national progress and prosperity. The harvest of life is character which grows with time, and it is this very factor that determines one's destiny and future. We shall always bear this in mind, and in so doing, we shall avoid personal disaster and will not bring adverse influence on others. Important utterances of HIMP.271-2. Wisemind Publications. A white minority government in the territory is daily arresting and arbitrarily persecuting African freedom fighters, particularly their leaders, to suppress the national freedom movements. This minority government has even taken drastic steps to declare a colonial government. Each and every government and the peoples of the world who value fundamental human rights, and particularly we Africans, must oppose, with one voice, this dangerous and unprecedented scheme of the white minority government in the territory. Nationwide broadcast African Liberation Day, May 26, 1965. Africa has accepted the challenge of the modern world, and with it come grave responsibilities. Many discouraging hours will arise before the rainbow of accomplished goals will appear on the horizon. African civilization in its potential magnitude must be able to command fortitude, patience, tolerance, and diligence. To sustain us in all our tasks we count on the women of Africa. Without their relentless vigilance no aspect of our responsibilities can be attained. Woman's role has never been so demanding, and you can be proud to answer this call for the betterment and future of mankind. Message to Women Seminar, December 14, 1960. So long as the spirit of Africa prevails and stirs within us, so long as we continue to think and work and act within the African context which we have created, imbued by the African atmosphere which surrounds and pervades us, we are confident that the goals we seek shall be attained. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 21, 1964. What do we seek for Africa? We seek to consolidate and guarantee our own precious liberty as independent nations. What do we seek for Africa? We seek to consolidate and guarantee our own precious liberty as independent nations. We seek freedom for our still dependent brothers. We seek Africa's economic growth and development, the betterment of the way of life of Africans and all men. We seek the closest collaboration with those others, Asians, Europeans, North and South Americans, who share our desires and who are willing to cooperate with us. We seek that self-sufficiency which will enable us to play our rightful role in international affairs and live in full harmony with all men. We seek to make our voices heard and our views heeded on the major problems confronting the world today. Our quest, above all else, is to assure to Africa and to each African state the fullest and most complete measure of freedom from all remnants of colonialism, freedom from neocolonialism, whatever form it may take. Freedom from political and military threat, freedom from aggression, freedom from interference by others in our internal affairs. Freedom from economic domination, freedom from the danger of nuclear destruction. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 21, 1964. In our struggle to eliminate from the African continent the ugly sore of apartheid, so repugnant and loathsome to us Africans, unhappily, all too little progress has been recorded. Much has been said and written in condemnation of this most ignoble and inhuman form of the abasement by man of his fellows. Each one of us here has roundly and unequivocally condemned this evil. But what have these words accomplished? To what results have our condemnations led? Of what effect have been our attacks, our criticisms? If we are truthful with ourselves, we must admit that there yet remains far to go in eliminating racial discrimination from our continent. We must, first of all, look to our own efforts. We have declared that all economic ties with South Africa must be terminated. Have we done so? We have declared that diplomatic relations with Portugal must be severed. Do Portuguese envoys still grace African capitals? In both of these areas, have we acted in unity? Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 21, 1964. Wisemind Publications. Let us bring the combined pressure of African influence to bear on those other nations of the world to whom our friendship and goodwill are meaningful, who claim adherence to the same principles of freedom and independence for all men that we uphold, who affirm their support for or struggle against oppression. Let us more effectively marshal our individual and collective forces to use our influence, to exploit our position in various international organs, to enlist their support in Africa's fight for freedom and development. By combining our efforts with these others, freedom can come earlier to our remaining dependent brothers. With their aid, we can soon sweep the stigma of racial discrimination from Africa. Let there be no mistake, the continued oppression of Africans on this continent and the continued domination of our South African brothers because of race constitute grave dangers which threaten the very foundations of the unity we seek. We cannot rest while these twin evils live on. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 2, 1964. Neocolonialism today takes two forms, economic and political. We recognize that economic dominance is not only often the more difficult to eliminate, but often serves as the entering wedge for political domination. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 2, 1964. When we consider political neocolonialism, our desires, although perhaps no less difficult of attainment, are at least easier of articulation. We seek to avoid a rigid and inflexible posture which prejudices our position on the major issues before the world. We seek to avoid alignment, to achieve true non-alignment. Our late good friend, H.E. Prime Minister Nehru of India, put it thus: the only camp we should like to be in is the camp of peace and goodwill. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 2, 1964. Wisemind Publications. We repeat that non-alignment is in no way anti-Eastern or anti-Western, any more than it is anti-Northern or anti-Southern. It is neither anti nor pro in any absolute fashion. It is largely affirmative, not negative. It is for peace and freedom. It is for a decent standard of living for all men. It is for the right of the people of any nation to adopt that economic and political system which the majority of them freely elect to follow. It is for the right of men and nations freely to take their stand on the great issues of the day, as their consciences and their sense of right and justice and these alone dictate. It should be clear, however, that as Africans embracing this principle we are not choosing to form a third bloc, a superpower which can only speak with a single voice because it is controlled and dictated by a single organ. What we seek to create is flexible, not inflexible, a moral force to be used for world peace, for economic development, for the benefit of humanity. We cannot impose our views by force. We have only the power of moral persuasion. This is our strength, and a great strength if we will but use it. And, finally, there exists today, not for Africa alone but for all mankind, the danger of the extinction of the human race by nuclear holocaust. We have supported it in the past, and we reiterate now, that Africa must be declared a denuclearized zone. We urge again that efforts to achieve a progressive disarmament be redoubled. The Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty constitutes a step in this direction, but it should be but the first of many. Our united efforts must be exerted to this end. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 2, 1964. A unified African development program which utilizes to the fullest the individual resources of the individual African states must be prepared and implemented. Techniques must be found and employed for the most efficient and economic use of our resources and financial means. In all of this, we can profit from the example of both the East and West. Organization of African Unity Summit, OAU, Cairo, July 2, 1964. Wisemind Publications. As academic people, it is essential that your discussions are unfettered by promotional inclinations and bias but instead pervaded by scholarly integrity and positive outlooks. Furthermore, you must focus on the future rather than solely on the past. Speech to International Conference on Africa and the World, October 3, 1966. In this hour of trial for the continent of Africa, all Africans should sink their minor differences and unite their efforts to rescue their Zimbabwe brethren whose rights, liberty and freedom have been trampled upon by a white settler minority racist regime which has illegally seized power in defiance of world public opinion and in violation of basic principles of international law. Speech to OAU. On Rhodesia, July 7, 1966. Now is the time for them to prove themselves worthy of their name, freedom fighters. Now is the time for them to commit themselves to the motto of a famous freedom fighter: give me liberty or give me death. They can count on the unswerving support of Free Africa. Speech to OAU. On Rhodesia, July 7, 1966. To maintain one's personal freedom in honor demands self-sacrifice which, in turn, calls for valor and loyalty. We command devotion to duty so that by your glorious military exploits, you could preserve the honor and freedom of your country. Security, November 15, 1948. Wisemind Publications. In the dark hours when we and our people were called upon to fight, we did not fail in our fierce resolve, and today, thanks to that determination, Ethiopia has again resumed her rightful place amongst the United Nations. We have all earned the right to be proud of that heritage of struggle. Kagnu Battalion and Collective Security, April 14, 1951. It is but natural that small nations who must so vigilantly defend their independence, should regard collective security as the cornerstone of their very existence. Their support of that principle should be instant, unhesitating, and absolute. No small state, no democratic nation, no people imbued with charity towards its fellow men, could do otherwise. Of all nations of the world, the name of Ethiopia has been most closely associated with that principle. Our undaunted defense of collective security at the League of Nations, our own appeal to that august body, our fierce and unaided struggles throughout the darkest hours preceding the last World War, the courage of our patriots, the unending sacrifices of our families, have given to Ethiopia an imperishable place in the history of that principle in modern times. Kagnu Battalion and Collective Security, April 14, 1951. Soldiers, the spirit of your ancestors, heroes of the thousand-year-long struggle for the defense of our freedom will follow you and will strengthen your hands and hearts in the heat of battle. You are following the footsteps of the long line of your forefathers in proclaiming before the world the right of each nation, determined by its own efforts to save its independence and freedom, to receive as collective security assistance of all peace-loving nations. Kagnu Battalion and Collective Security, April 14, 1951. Wisemind Publications. Global peace and security can only be permanently secured if all people of the world pool their resources towards the complete eradication of man's common enemies: ignorance, hunger, and disease. A nation can make rapid economic growth only when it makes use of foreign economic and technical aid and, if the people make every effort towards the proper exploitation of their natural resources. The opportunities we have today in having at our disposal those advantages which the now economically advanced nations acquired after long periods of trial and exertion, namely the means to step up the rate of economic growth and purchase equipment necessary for industrial and other purposes, enable us to implement several projects in a much shorter time. The history of planning shows that no pioneer plans were ever executed even partially, much less wholly. The fruits of the farmer's labor must be enjoyed by him whose toil has produced the crop. Industrialization is not an alternative to the development of agriculture, rather, the development of agriculture is the essential precondition to the growth of industry. Without agricultural expansion, industrial growth is impossible. The basis of the livelihood for the great majority of the Ethiopian people rests and will always remain in the land. In embarking upon a sweeping program of land reform, the government is only taking those measures essential to the social progress of the Ethiopian nation which it is its duty to undertake. If initiative elsewhere is lacking, the burden passes to government. Wisemind Publications. Statistical data testify to the fact that our womenfolk suffer from diseases and complications that arise out of ignorance and lack of antenatal care and maternity facilities. Today, when we open this hospital for gynecology and obstetrics which is run by our foundation, we are happy not only because we note with satisfaction that mothers have a well-equipped hospital, but also because the hospital which the Indian community had presented to us on the 25th anniversary of our coronation, which we in return dedicated to the memory of the greatness of Mahatma Gandhi, who is marveled for his dedication and sacrifice the world over, and named after him, has now reached this stage. When we express our concern about the medical care of our people, one of the main aspects is antenatal and postnatal care. Since the responsibilities involved in a hospital of this nature are great, all of you who have been selected to serve here have to live up to these responsibilities. We wish to remind you midwives and other nurses, to be aware of the fact that you are given to the patients to serve them willingly, patiently, and with devotion. A modern building with all its physical facilities alone is not enough to cure patients, and you should not forget that your will to serve and your smiling faces act as tonics that contribute towards the recovery of the patient. We hope that the children born in this hospital will be blessed and healthy. It gives us great pleasure to see that award has been dedicated to the memory of Waizero Mentwab Desta, from whom we had inherited some land which we gave over to the foundation. We thank all those who kindly donated medical instruments and other equipment for the hospital. Opens Gandhi Hospital December 5, 1963. Wisemind Publications. Ethiopia covets not the territory or possession of others, conversely, she stands ready always to defend her sovereign right against the malicious designs of others. Wisemind Publications. We will continue to speak of our efforts in the development and extension of education in Ethiopia. As we informed you before, among Ethiopia's long-range programs is that embracing the youth of the empire. It is our constant solicitude that Ethiopia's youth be brought up and educated in order to render service to Ethiopia. In order to retain her proper and rightful place, Ethiopia's sole means is education, through which she will be able to assist herself, maintain her independence, take an active and important part in world affairs and be a benefit both to herself and to others. We are satisfied with the efforts made and with the time spent in the education of Ethiopia's youth. The present generation's thirst and earnest desire for education, as well as their easy adaptability to modern culture and training and their spirit of progress encourage us to redouble our efforts toward the fulfillment of our aims. We have great pride in our people and equally in the future generations. We are able thus to wait hopefully for the young Ethiopian graduates from the universities of the world who will return home in the near future to do service to their country. Wisemind Publications. We believe that from truth alone is born liberty and that only an educated people can consider itself as really free and master of its fate. It is only with an educated people that representative and democratic organs of government can exercise their influence for national progress. Wisemind Publications. The products of learning and knowledge then benefit the life of mankind, and these fruits of education to the cultivation of which we ever devote our energies should be shared by all our people throughout our empire. However, to obtain this objective, capable teachers must be secured. Wisemind Publications. In several countries of the world we see persons who do work of various kinds during the day, in order to get the necessary money to live by. In the evening they devote their time to study and to reach a sufficient level of education to qualify as doctors or engineers. Such men, who have the love of learning in their hearts, show us how age need not prove a hindrance. Therefore you should strive assiduously to make yourselves, by education, worthy men, and for this it matters not whether it be by day or by night, nor whether you be child or adult, man or woman. Wisemind Publications. Unless each man's life be complete, displaying education and prosperity, the people as a whole cannot share in common a flourishing existence, nor can it give its government cause for pride. A country belongs to both leaders and people. The mutual cooperation between them is testimony to this fact. Unless the people help us, our attempt to help them will be fruitless. Why did we become a leader? Is it not for the benefit and welfare of the people? How noble and great a deed is the act of sacrificing one's wealth, land, and money, to one's needy community instead of for selfish purposes. The gratitude remains forever. One who does not contribute to his community and the coming generation remains to be a burden to his society and an object of ridicule to outside observers. Wisemind Publications. It is both the responsibility of the governor as well as elders to create harmony among the people in initiating them to discuss their common problems and work towards the betterment of their standard of living. Wisemind Publications.